I'm here to express opposition to Local Law C for 2026, which would establish a local hiring preference for Albany County residents for county assisted housing development projects. I submitted a letter in the past, but I'll just summarize the points that I made in that letter. Firstly, it creates a government-imposed hiring preference that may interfere with contracted workforce decisions. The law requires developers receiving county financial assistance to make good faith efforts to ensure at least 30% of construction work is performed by Albany County. Opponents may argue that this adds another layer of regulation to private development. This bill may increase the costs and administrative burdens. Developers must prepare and submit a community hiring plan before receiving assistance and comply with ongoing reporting requirements. Smaller developers in particular may have fewer resources to manage that compliance. The bill could also slow down housing production. Additional compliance requirements, monitoring, investigations, and potential disputes could delay project timelines. It could be argued that any barriers to construction are counterproductive during a housing shortage. There also exists a potential conflict with existing labor markets. Construction projects often rely on regional labor pools, specialized contractors, and union and non-union workforce availability. A local hiring target can make it harder to fill certain skilled positions quickly. There is a bit of ambiguity around enforcement in the bill. The law allows investigations, withholding of payments, hearings, settlements, potential loss of eligibility for county assistance after repeated violations. It could also be argued that enforcement authority is broad and could create uncertainty for development, something you really don't want to see for the housing development. Public disclosure requirements may discourage participation. The law requires public reporting of developers, projects, contractors, workforce numbers, and hiring percentage. It could be argued that this creates an unnecessary exposure or administrative obligations.
30 seconds.
The bill may also discourage developers from seeking county assistance. Developers who can afford county financial assistance may choose other funding structures to avoid additional requirements. Questions whether local hiring goals belong in housing policy. Critics may argue housing affordability and workforce policy are separate issues that should be addressed through other programs rather than development mandates. Possible legal challenges. Opponents may question whether county has the authority to impose workforce requirements tied to financial assistance or whether the requirements conflict with state and federal procurement or labor laws. And lastly, limited evidence of effectiveness. The proposal establishes reporting and compliance mechanisms, but does not demonstrate that the requirement will produce measurable improvements in employment outcomes and affordability or housing affordability. That concludes my remarks, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
There are no more speakers.
Is there anyone else in the chamber who wishes to speak? Hearing none, the public forum is now closed. Clerk, please read Resolution 199.
Resolved by the County Legislature of the County of Albany that a public hearing on proposed local law number E for 2026, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending Albany County Code, Chapter 288 regarding safety requirements and provisions for electric scooters and bicycles with electric assist to be held by the Albany County Legislature at 7 p.m. on Monday, June 22nd, 2026, with participation information to be made available on the Albany County website, and the clerk of the county legislature is directed to cause notice of such hearing to be published containing the necessary information in accordance with the applicable provisions of law. Affidavits of publication are on file in the clerk's office.
Clerk, please read your first name.
Anna Savage.
Good evening, I'm Ann Savage. I'm a resident of the 10th County District in the City of Albany. I'm also the Executive Director of the New York Bicycling Coalition and the Chair of the New York Safe Streets Coalition. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on Local Law E. The goal of this local law is clear and admirable: to provide safer streets for everyone. Unfortunately, as written, it's not the best way to achieve the goal. My primary concern is that Local Law E regulates legal low-speed e-bikes and e-scooters, which by law have a motor that cuts out at 20 miles per hour. Local Law E does not address illegal high-speed electric motorcycles with motors over 20 miles per hour. These are the dangerous vehicles that most need regulation, and they are not addressed. Low-speed legal e-bikes are a win for Albany County. They reduce wear and tear on our roads. They provide affordable transportation options. They reduce air pollution. They reduce our reliance on county services by improving mental health and physical health for our constituents. We should not be regulating them more harshly than the illegal devices. I want to draw your attention to a couple particular problematic issues. First of all, helmet mandates. Helmets are important for safety. I always wear a helmet, and I advise others to do the same. But a helmet mandate is going to seriously undermine CDPHP cycle, which is a nationally recognized program that integrates e-bikes and bikes into our transit system. We should not be doing anything to undermine it, and a $100 ticket is a very big risk to take if you just want to take bike share down the road a bit. Second, e-bikes on roads that are rated at 35 miles, posted 35 miles per hour or higher. By state law, regular bikes can ride on those roads. Every regular bike can ride on all of those roads. So it makes little sense that by state law, e-bikes cannot, but that is what the law says. Some New York State municipalities have used their local control to override that and say that an e-bike, a state legal e-bike, can ride on any road that a regular bike can ride on. And that's what Albany County should be doing, not adding a ticket of $100 for someone who's just trying to ride their bike on Fuller Road. That's a very specific example for me, because the safest route from my house to Colony Center, where I frequently go by bike, takes me on Fuller Road. It is the only safe way that I can get to Colony Center. And if you pass this law, I will have to choose between driving, riding my e-bike, or ordering online. Why are you incentivizing me to choose to order online rather than go to my local merchants? And why are you incentivizing me to drive and add to that congestion? Finally, I encourage you to add an education component. This law was based clearly on the Suffolk County law that does include an education component at the point of sale, both for in order and online, because many people don't know the New York State law. I have a 15-year-old son. None of my kids' parents know that it's illegal for their 15-year-old sons to have an e-bike. It is, however, illegal, and we need to educate our community before providing harsh penalties on them. Finally, county authority, which I had read last week. Thank you so much. You do have a copy of my remarks as well.
Casey Allen.
Albany County Legislators. My name is Casey Allen, and I stand before you this evening as Communications Manager at a local nonprofit dedicated to fostering safer, more accessible, and vibrant communities in the capital region. As a Center Square resident, an Albany social cycling volunteer, and as an e-bike owner. By virtue of being such, I am quadruple threatened by local law E, which I urge you to pause work on. This law's stated legislative intent is to protect the health and safety of county residents. But as written, the measures proposed will mostly result in restricting access to vital alternative transportation, prohibiting e-bikes and e-scooters on all county-owned roads with no alternative routes available, will severely limit mobility for county residents, myself included. Since purchasing my Class 2 e-bike from local bike shop Blue Tulip Bicycle, shout out Melanie, in March of this year, I have been able to drastically reduce my car dependency, and therefore my carbon footprint, at a time when gas prices are simultaneously skyrocketing. I currently rely on my e-bike as my primary mode of transportation, apart from my own 2 feet. And like you, at the county legislator, I stand 10 toes down on concerns about the massive influx of non-street legal powered devices which do not fit into New York State designations of Class 1 or Class 2 e-bikes. I am also deeply concerned to see so many children, 16 and under, utilizing e-bikes, e-scooters, and illegal e-motos on our streets, sidewalks, and trails. It is clear by their presence that the current New York State laws are not preventing the sale of dangerous e-motos, and that laws related to electric mobility devices are not being properly communicated with New York State residents. But blanket banning e-bike use on county-owned properties would be rash and not only severely limit everyday mobility on area residents, it would effectively ban all e-bikes, including the CDPHP fleet of e-bikes, from use on Albany County Rail Trail as well. These trails are a vital part of our county's economy and provide significant public health benefits. A study published in June of 2026 by Parks and Trails New York found that the Empire State Trail segments in Albany County generate approximately $52 million in economic output, $5.8 million in tax revenue, and $2.1 million in public health savings annually. The same study found that every dollar invested in trail infrastructure in New York State yields $5.43 in economic output. Creating unique local laws that limit the usability of e-bikes and e-scooters will not only negatively impact users of all electric mobility devices by restricting their access to county roads and facilities, it will put strain on the economic and health benefits of our region's trails. Again, I urge the county to not progress with the passage of Local Law E, but rather to make a commitment towards better enforcement of existing laws while continuing to work with regional stakeholders to develop common sense e-bike and e-scooter regulations that keep pace with evolving technology while prioritizing safety, accessibility, and economic vitality for everyone.
Benjamin Macro.
Good evening. My name is Benjamin Macro. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of this body. I am an Albany resident from Pine Hills. I also am lucky enough to wear the hat of board member of the Capital Streets organization that Casey just so wonderfully represented, and as well as a member of the nascent, not yet fully formed, still waiting for 2 more appointments, the City of Albany Active Transportation Planning Commission. I want to speak today not necessarily with those hats on, but as someone who also, much like Casey, uses an e-bike on a relatively daily basis. I was lucky enough to purchase an e-bike at the other local bike shop, Freewheel, up on Vetrano Avenue. And that e-bike was a model where I was able to travel with my daughter with the extended carriage space in the back, a nice little wraparound cage. That's a Type 2 e-bike. It is able to accelerate up to 20 miles an hour. I use it on the city streets to get from my home to my kids' school up in from Pine Hills up to Arbor Hill. It's a great commute. Get to see all sorts of different neighborhoods, people on the street, constantly waving, constantly excited to see us. That opportunity is wonderful. My child knows so many people, knows the neighborhoods, can explore the city, feels confident, feels really rooted here in the city of Albany. I do sometimes pull them without that power, but I gotta tell you, we've been up State Street with that power. It's a really wonderful opportunity using those bikes. This law could potentially damage our ability to visit places like the Albany County Rail Trail, going out and getting some ice cream out in Del Mar. It could damage our ability to drop my kid off at the wonderful dance classes that are being held at the new St. Rose Athletic Facility. That's often the after-school destination we're going to. I just wanted to speak a little bit about that. I think it's important to understand that there's a variety of users of e-bikes, of legal, safe users of e-bikes, who occasionally, again, like myself, I always wear a helmet when I'm out with my kid. When I'm riding my personal e-bike, I always wear a helmet. It's really good policy. The other night, I was lucky enough, again, to go out on a date with my wife. We went to the showing in the warehouse district of the World Cup, or not the World Cup, the basketball game. It was really way too crowded. So what did? We grabbed a couple of those CBTA bikes. We went straight back downtown, found ourselves having a lovely evening here at East Common Plaza. That would not have been legal to do under this new law. So we're just asking for a small pause. Folks like New York Bicycle Coalition, Capital Streets, even Parks and Trails New York, which Casey mentioned, a lot of wonderful resources here in the city of Albany. We're lucky in the capital city. Let's just take a pause, do a little more research, have a little more collaboration, and then there's definitely a law that's going to protect and honor the law. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Edward Brennan.
Thanks, my name is Ed Brennan. I work for the New York Bicycle Coalition, and we have a Governor's Traffic Safety Committee grant I teach law enforcement classes on e-bike law and safety across the state. I've taught probably about 500 or so officers. In the past 2 weeks, I haven't had that much time to prepare for this because I've had 4 of these classes in the past 2 weeks. And but I do want to address a couple of things, some technical things that have kind of bothered me about the legislation. First of all, the time, place, and manner laws that are allowed to localities, those are assigned in the DTL to cities, towns, and villages. It's not like the counties were ignored. They said specific counties, Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester counties have a role in those time, place, and manner things, including helmets, with respect to enabling legislation to allow the local, the smaller governments to do what they need to do. With respect to intoxication, I don't want to see people intoxicated or riding around on these things, but the law, the DTL does specify that there can't be enforcement of those provisions unless there's a crash into a vehicle, another vehicle, a person, an object, or a building, really specific. So you've got these fines in your law. I think those are inconsistent with the state law. Why did they do this? I think they did this because if you think about it, drunk driving's been a problem for decades now, right? We've increased enforcement for it, we've increased fines and penalties for it, and it's still happening. But the problem is, would you rather have people riding around in F-250s that can go 100 more miles an hour, or would you rather have them riding around in these things that can only go up to 20 miles per hour? I think the state has made a kind of judgment here. There's nothing specific. I don't know the legislative history. I can see no other reason for it to treat these things differently. So I don't think you want to be inconsistent with the state law. I think impoundment is another kind of question. Instead of doing fines, I think it's perfectly okay, especially also with regard to minors. They're not supposed to be out on these things. I think impoundment is okay. If you see kids out on these things that they shouldn't be on, impound it, grab it. If you can authorize that. Police are very nervous about impounding something, grabbing something without that kind of backing by local legislation. If you have that kind of impoundment ability, then they can say, okay, you're not getting this thing back until mom and dad come down and talk to us about it, and you can impound fees, etc. I think those are separate from the fines. The other problem, lastly, I see possible inconsistency. It does require the presence of parents for a lot of violations to be passed, that those summonses to be passed on to parents. I think you've got an inconsistency problem with those as well. Other than that, yes, definitely look at those sellers and make sure that they are providing information to people that buy e-bikes. Make sure that they are telling people the laws. We've got these little rat cards that we produce that have all the pertinent local laws. People don't know the laws. As it is, I'm teaching these classes because a lot of people don't know the laws either. But thank you.
Chairwoman, there are no more speakers.
Is there anyone else in the chamber who wishes to speak? Come on up.
How you doing? I'm Jonathan Scherzer. I'm Director of Business Development at CDTA, the aforementioned operators in CDPHP Cycle. I'm trying to take a couple of minutes here. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary of the program here in Albany County. Certainly appreciate the advocacy you heard here earlier tonight. There's a couple of things I just wanted to say on behalf of CDTA. We've had a wonderful, successful wood safety history throughout our 10 years. We've not run into significant challenges, particularly the ones that are being borne about here, but we do understand the idea and the concept of safety and making sure that everyone has the ability to enjoy everything the county has to offer. So what we'll continue to do is, as we have been, work together in partnership to make cycle available in intelligent places where people have access to use it. from neighborhood to rail trail and so on. And we certainly have the ability to be more flexible, to be able to move the bikes around. And as some of the other folks have discussed from the coalition and some of the other organizations, the bikes are governed. CDPH recycled bikes are governed. They do not even reach 20 miles an hour. And again, I think a lot of these are different types of class of vehicles than cycle is. But we certainly understand the idea behind the law, and we're certainly open and willing to work with Albany County to provide the safest option for its residents, its visitors, and it's even in employees, because we also have a partnership in that regard. So sort of to thank everyone for their time tonight, for their work, putting the proposal together, but I do think there are things we can do, particularly from our program that is now again in its 10th year and done over 500,000 rides safely. I think there's a way to work together and find a way forward. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the chamber who wishes to speak on Resolution 199? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. I have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ricard, second by Mr. Malowitz. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? We are
Excellent, then I'm good.
There's a lot of potential to do something. No, we're not. This state, anything that doesn't come from developers. They
Yeah.